What's up, everybody? My name is Joe Brown, and this is Heresy Financial. Every year, the trustees for the Social Security Trust Fund and the Medicare Trust Fund have to produce a report that shows the health of those trust funds. Well, it turns out that in this latest report, the Social Security Trust Fund has had 1 year cut off of its total lifespan, and they now expect it will have exactly $0 in it. It will be depleted in just 12 years. So in this video, we're going to talk about, number one, how is Social Security funded like this, and why is it different than anything else that the government spends money on? And number two, we are going to talk about what might happen as a result of that trust fund running out. Ready? Let's dive in. You might have noticed by now that Social Security is a little bit different than any other thing that the federal government decides they're going to spend money on. Normally, if the federal government wants to spend money on something, all they have to do is vote and decide, hey, we're going to spend money on this. And then they either have to raise the money through an increase in taxes, or by cutting spending from somewhere else, or by borrowing more. With Social Security, though, it's a little bit different. And to understand why, we have to go back to when FDR created it. Basically, it was questionable whether or not the establishment of Social Security was constitutional or not, and here's why. There's a common misconception that the Constitution is a list of things that the government cannot do, and if it's not prohibited, then the government can do anything they want as long as it's not prohibited. That's exactly the opposite of what the Constitution is. The Constitution is a list of things that the government can do, and then it says if it is not explicitly listed that the government can do something listed in this document, we're prohibiting it, and the states, it's up to the states then to do that if they want to. Well, obviously, establishing a program that will take money from people's paychecks, put it into a fund, and then pay out from that fund to people once they get to a certain age until they die. Obviously, that was not explicitly said that the federal government could do that in the Constitution. Therefore, the fear of FDR and the people who were trying to put together Social Security, the fear was that if they tried to do it, the Supreme Court would just slash it down because the Constitution says if it's not explicitly allowed, then it's prohibited. And they had reason to fear that the Supreme Court would strike it down because the Supreme Court, during the same time, had struck down the Agricultural Adjustment Act precisely for this reason, that they said, nope, the federal government does not have the power to do what you want to do with the Agricultural Adjustment Act. Now, even though the funding and the outlay of expenses for Social Security was set up very, very similarly to the AAA, the Supreme Court did not strike this down. Now, you might be thinking, why in the world would they set up a program like this in a way where you have to have a separate tax that is pulled from people's paychecks, and then it goes into a fund, and then it sits there and grows potentially. Hopefully that was the idea. And then from that, they pull and pay out the benefits to anybody who has crossed a certain age threshold. Well, FDR outlines explicitly why he wanted it set up this way so badly was because he wanted every single person, as they worked their way through their life, to experience the pain of contributing every single dollar to this tax so that in his words, no politician would ever be able to strike down Social Security. And look at how right he was about that. It seems many people claim they're capitalists until they encounter Social Security. There's not a single politician in Washington, D.C. that would ever touch trying to come after Social Security benefits. And that is because everybody alive has spent their entire working life contributing into this program, and they feel entitled, that's why they're called entitlements, to getting it someday, and nobody's going to take that away from me, right? And so this was brilliant foresight on FDR's part on how to make sure that this program stuck. There's only one problem with this. What he didn't anticipate was that Social Security is basically a Ponzi scheme. If the only way you can make a payout is from new contributions, that is the definition of a Ponzi scheme, as pointed out by many people, obviously. And Ponzi schemes work as long as there's a continuing growing base of money coming in. The problem is that today we face an inverted population where basically you don't have enough workers contributing to continue to fund at the rate at which it's paying out, which brings us to today's problem where every year they have to give a financial health report that says, okay, this is when we think the trust fund will be empty, because every year they're paying out a lot more than is coming in. Now, again, the reason why Social Security has been so sticky over the years, and it has has never really had any chance whatsoever of going away or being struck down or being eliminated is specifically because the only way it can make payouts by law, this is the way it was crafted from the beginning, is from new money coming in dedicated to that specific trust fund, which means that by law, the only way for that trust fund to stop losing money every year and start growing again would either be to cut the amount that's being paid out or to increase the amount that's being put in. In other words, increase the taxes, the Social Security tax. Now, both of these are political suicide. There's no doubt about it. If any politician seriously tries to put forward raising Social Security taxes or cutting Social Security benefits in order to make sure that it can continue, it is political suicide either way. So that is why this problem has never really been seriously dealt with. And they just say, well, we've got 20 years. Well, we've got 15 years. Well, we've got 13 years. And now we've got 12 years. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Any law that Congress has made in the past, Congress can change in the future. And we've seen very clearly that anytime a political emergency happens, they are very quick to hand out money. So here is exactly what will happen as that doomsday date approaches. No, they will not be cutting benefits. Not a single person who collects Social Security now or will be collecting Social Security in the future will get a penny less than what they are legally entitled to. Those benefits will not be cut. Guess what else will not happen? You will not see an increase in Social Security taxes. Many people say it's possible or inevitable or it's a must. I'm saying it will not happen. What will happen instead, Congress will get together and say, hey, we set it up this way back in the beginning that it could only be funded by an increase in those specific taxes. We can change that law and call up our buddies on Eccles Street, in case you don't get the reference, that's the Federal Reserve, and say, hey, we need you to print a little bit more money for us because we've got a funding issue. And at that point, by the stroke of a pen, Congress will then refund the Social Security Trust Fund with new money that they have borrowed, just like they do for any other expenditure. Because if the two options of cutting benefits or increasing taxes are political suicide, and there's a third option, which is use inflation or monetary expansion in order to fund our expenses, and all we have to do is change a previous law in order to let us do that, and that avoids the political suicide, and nobody understands that that's going to cause an increase in the cost of living beyond what the increases that we're currently experiencing because you're funding something through monetary expansion, and it's just like pay no attention to the man behind the curtain and we can do this magic money thing. 100% that is going to be the solution. So yes, the trust fund that has extra funds in it right now that Social Security taxes go into and Social Security benefits are paid out of, that fund is scheduled to hit zero in 12 years, and at that time there will only be enough coming in order to pay out about 76% of current benefits. But before that happens, mark my words, Congress will change the law so they can use any other form of funding they want, and it will be backstopped by the Federal Reserve's printing press in order to fund Social Security. They will 100% take the politically expedient route so that every retiree will continue to get the exact number of dollars they were promised, whether or not those dollars will purchase the same amount of things for them as they used to. As always, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.